because the demons are now being favored by time, and they're also being favored by Sukacharya, the spiritual master of the demons. And so therefore the Lord wanted to have them executed truce for the time being. So it's interesting that here comes the Supreme Lord. He's speaking directly to the demigods. He could have very easily just made an arrangement and everything could have been just automatically arranged. But Krishna didn't want to interfere with the... at that time, the demons were in a favorable situation. So Krishna could have very easily, or Lord Narayan, could have very easily changed that. But because they'd earned that merit, then he was allowing them to enjoy the fruits of their austerities and penances that they'd performed. So Krishna doesn't interfere with the mechanical arrangements of karma and nature that are going on. He can intervene, but even when he intervenes, he does it in such a way that he keeps the demons and the demigods happy, although ultimately the demons aren't very happy in the long run, because they get all the nectar stolen from them. So it would seem initially that Lord Narayan had conceded to the demons, and he was facilitating them also. But in the long run, that wasn't the case. And so it may also seem with us that at the present moment, it may seem like the demons are still very much in control of what's happening on the planet. And at the same time, we know that if we continue on with spreading Krishna consciousness, that the devotees ultimately will be successful. And that is also predicted in the scriptures, that the Krishna consciousness movement, the chanting of the holy names, will spread everywhere and engulf everybody in due course of time. And we're just now in the very beginning stages of that taking place. And Krishna plays the long game. He looks at the ultimate results of everything that's going on, not just the immediate situation. So we have to become transcendental to what's going on in the immediate situation and try to see the bigger picture of a whole prophecy is unfolding. Krishna came. Shiva Ramaj was saying that Srila Vyasadeva, when he compiled the Bhagavatam, that was very historic. And Srila Vyasadeva understood that in the future, that Bhagavatam, the Sanskrit, would be translated into all the languages of the world and would be distributed en masse. So he was aware of that. Otherwise, why go to so much trouble? So that was the first part of the plan. Well, actually, the first part of the plan was that all the pastimes that Srila Vyasadeva was writing down had been enacted millennia ago. So they'd all taken place, knowing that in the future they would end up on paper, in print, and be distributed en masse, and people would be aware of all these different incarnations and great sages and the philosophy. That was, that's already, and then Lord Chaitanya would revive, and then Lord Chaitanya would come with a whole retinue. Krishna Varnam Tashar Krishnam, Sangapanga Strapashadam, Yogya Sankirtana Praya, Yajanti He Sumedasha. So when Lord Chaitanya came, he came with his associates, his companions. And they didn't just come when Lord Chaitanya came, they came before Lord Chaitanya, and they came after Lord Chaitanya. So many great souls, special personalities that were strategically placed in particular times and localities to help. So why would it be that suddenly now that Srila Prabhupada has left us, that now suddenly there's no more great souls who are going to come to help spread Lord Chaitanya's mission, when there's been so many arrangements being made from millennia ago? So obviously still great souls will come and they'll help spearhead the Krishna consciousness movement and Lord Chaitanya's prophetic words will come true. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, actually Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said people will learn Bengali just so they can study the Chaitanya Charitamrita properly. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, eventually High Court judges will be wearing tilak. So then we'll know that we've got a good grip on what's happening when that happens. Oh yeah, he's a lawyer, right?
He's not a judge.
Is he a judge? He's up there now, he's well up there, yeah. What's his devotional? Oh, Abhijit's his name before, and he got initiated. And his name now is something else. Yeah, he's over in Australia just now. He just sent me a message the other day. So Harry Bowl, he's probably in bed right now, Australia, right? So yeah, it's already starting to take place. Interesting as well, on New Year's Eve, we used to get so many problems with the authorities letting us do Harinam anywhere. And in Edinburgh, they were always a bit fussy. And then the police said a few years ago that when we do the Harinam after the fireworks, it placates the crowd. Normally there's a big punch up and everyone's drunk and the bottles are flying everywhere, you know. I remember one year there was a big fight, there was broken glass all over the ground. But the police noticed that since we've started doing the Harinam, the crowd are in a really good mood. So it makes their job easier. And this year they were very helpful. They were showing us where to go and which places to avoid. And they were totally happy that we were set up and doing our thing, you know. So it's only a matter of time before everything will fall into place and Lord Chaitanya's words will prove true. Just like in the 11th chapter, Krishna, Arjuna's thinking, well, should I kill them or shouldn't I kill them? I'm not so sure this is a good idea. And Krishna says, well, actually, it won't be you that's killing them anyway. I'll be killing them. It's just, do you want me to use you or do you want me to use somebody else? Or shall I just do it myself? Krishna can do it. And even as this pastime unfolds, there's so many points where they can't do it anymore. And Krishna has to come again and intervene and help the pastime along, because they can't actually pull it off themselves. Even lifting the mountain is a problem. Then chanting the ocean, and then getting the nectar. An incarnation of Krishna, Dhanvantari, comes, and then stealing the nectar, Mohini Murti comes. So many ways Krishna interplays with what's going on. So if we just remain malleable to whatever the plan is of the Lord, then he will intervene at whatever time is needed. And just as everybody was killed that was supposed to be killed, etc. So in the same way, all the obstacles will be destroyed, and those that need to become favorable will become favorable. Any questions or comments?
How do you know this verse that you quote? Those who are intelligent will take up the Sankirtan movement. But how do you measure spiritual intelligence? Because material intelligence is easier. You see, there are scientists, people with big brains, and they have, and you can kind of measure the material intelligence. But how do you? And you see, a simple devotee who may not be learned, or from the material point of view, he's not very intelligent, but still he take up the Sankirtan movement, so we can conclude that he's more intelligent than the so-called scientists and professors and all that. So how do you measure that? Is there any way to measure the spiritual intelligence?
Okay, so you turn to chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, and you go to text 8. And it says, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness with pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance. So it doesn't mention anywhere there in the knowledge, understanding how to make a nuclear bomb, or how to make a car engine that runs on water, or how to make your belly 3 inches shorter, thinner, or how to make yourself look younger with cream that gets rid of the wrinkles, or someone that can remember the entire Britannica encyclopedia. Doesn't mention any of that. And it's interesting that we have an educational system, and educato, I believe educato means to be well behaved in Spanish.
Educado.
So we have an educational system that's not based upon education. In other words, when the student comes to the end of his study, he should be gauged by his character. Oh, have you become humble? Have you become proudless? Have you become freedom from entanglement? Are you now detached? Okay, that's great. So then we can give you a diploma. But rather what happens, what I personally found, I was at school and that was quite wild. Then I went to college and that was super wild. That was like turbo. Illicit sex and intoxication was just like, it was completely ramped up at that point. Everything was available. Everybody was young, everyone wanted to enjoy their senses. I was supposed to be going into a stage now where I was refining and acquiring knowledge. And actually I was just becoming more of an animal than I'd ever done before. So then we have an educational system that implodes. They did a test on 11 to 16-year-old children, and they had to fill in an A to Z of pornographic terms they knew. And when the teachers got it back, the teachers didn't know what it was, half of the stuff. They had to Google it in. And the kids knew what it was. So that's not education. That's like, when people go to prison and they come out and they're a better criminal than when they went in. Because all they've been doing is associating with other criminals. Oh yeah, I went in there and I got the lid off the box and I cut the yellow wire. No, not the yellow wire. It's the purple wire first, then the yellow one last. Oh, okay. So as soon as he comes out, he's right back at someone else's box and he's getting the wires clipped properly and he's in there. And he's become a better criminal now than he was. He's got a diploma now. So the education system isn't working. The reformation system for people that break the law isn't working. And if people come from a different country into a country where they don't have respect for the laws, then you're just out of trouble, aren't you? This is what's going on. So the way we gauge the person's level of advancement in knowledge is by how the person conducts himself. And that's why Srila Prabhupada wanted no illicit sex, no intoxication, no eating meat, no gambling, because this will form good Brahminical qualities. And that's a good foundation then to build everything else upon that. And then if it turns out you can't be a Brahmin, then at least you can be a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, or even a Shudra isn't too bad these days actually, compared to what people are. At least the Shudras are cooperative, The Shudras don't mind not getting any money, and they don't mind not voting. They're just happy to be facilitated, and they have faith that the people who are leading the society are the most intelligent, and therefore they make the proper decisions. The Shudras are not all getting together and saying, oh, I don't like that, that Brahmin over there, he's got a really nice hut, and it's okay for him, he just reads all day and he tells us what to do. The Shudras weren't like that. They knew what their position was and they were happy to act in that. It's interesting as well, besides this, whatever they may be is ignorance. In other words, if you can enhance your ability to ignore God, that's considered knowledge now. It's like if they're doing a scientific thing and then someone says, well, what about God? Everyone's like, oh, come on, shut up about God. We're trying to do some scientific stuff here, you know. So it's all based upon ignorance. That's the first premise. Before we do anything scientific, let's all get this straight, guys. We're all going to forget that there is a God, or we're going to deny that there is a God. Everyone okay on that? Okay, now let's proceed forward after that. And once we've established that, now let's go forward with our science.
It's not so easy because in all branches of knowledge, where knowledge is increasing, the Lord is always there. So people with any intelligence and vision actually see that, and they present these findings. And there's some very interesting debates with people at the tops of their field who are saying, well, this actually looks like evidence of, supreme consciousness, a manifestation of supreme consciousness, what we might call God. And the other ones, when they want to dispute it, because they're of lesser intelligence, they have to resort to kind of name calling and things like that.
Yeah.
They expose themselves as not being as intelligent. So we do find that. And I find it interesting as well, you were mentioning about the Reformation system and how everything is turbocharged to put people on a particular course of behaviour. And we can see it with the leaders, the so-called leaders of the world at this time. Apparently there's international laws and rules that people are meant to follow. And how are the individual citizens meant to follow the rules when their own leaders are just tearing up the rule books and doing whatever they want, like taking somebody's country, taking somebody's leader, taking somebody's resources?
Yeah.
And we're meant to follow a good example. And how are the citizens going to follow any example when they see it's a free-for-all?
It reminds me of the 11th. It's the 11th canto that's full of predictions, or is it the 12th? Time up, 11th or 12th, it says that leaders in Kali Yuga will be voted in according to their audaciousness. So the bigger the mouth and the louder the volume of the voice, the more chance they have of getting in. So you have animals, and they vote for the biggest animal. So they get their karma, and so they end up unqualified. People end up with unqualified leaders. Whereas the actual system is those who are intelligent and enlightened amongst the citizens, which won't be very many, they're the ones that will sit down and vote, because they'll judge the person's character and decide, is this person well-intentioned, rather than somebody can just turn up and say, well, if you vote for me, everyone will get £5,000 a week, and cannabis will be legal, and you're allowed to stay out till 3 o'clock at night and smoke anything you like. Everyone's like, oh, that sounds like I'll vote for him. So he'll get the mass of votes, and the mass are the lowest common denominator. So you end up with a real... I was just reading this morning, actually. Srila Prabhupada was saying, right now the communists are Shudras, and the capitalists are Vaishyas. He says, but eventually, as Kali Yuga progresses, communism will take over, the Shudras will take over, because there's more Shudras than anybody else. And then communism is, because I've got not anything, then everybody should get nothing. And that can't really work, because if you gave everybody, say you just split up the resources now of the United Kingdom, and everybody got the equal amount, so they all got £300,000 each, and then you come back 5 years later. Now, 95% of people would be suffering from alcoholic poisoning, or 5% would have invested it, and they'd have more than they'd had when they initially got the money. So that's why it doesn't work. You can't make it a classless society, because some people will naturally be good at entrepreneuring, some people will naturally be good at leading and dominating others, and some people will naturally be aloof and detached and philosophical about things. You can't remove that. If you try to, then you just end up making... and even the greater proportion won't be happy, because they won't have that infrastructure of people generating wealth and investing it, and people overseeing, and people being visionary. So unless you establish Vanashram, then you socially... In Vanashram, you have communism for the Shudras, capitalism for the Vaishyas, monarchy for the Kshatriyas, and anarchy for the Brahmins, all four political systems functioning at the same time. And then everyone can be accommodated. which is quite a challenge. But you, my dear devotees, must go ahead now and do this. You must establish, first of all, in Lesmahego, and then we'll move out into South Lanarkshire, and eventually we'll spread throughout the United Kingdom. Any other questions or comments?
It seems a lot of the time the Lord creates situations to glorify his devotees and things like this. So there's particular hardships or awkward situations, like with Arjun there. He was in a very awkward situation, but it was an opportunity for him to really be glorified. You know, his good friend, his devotee gets glorified in the whole process.
Yeah.
And in this particular Kali Yuga, where things are a certain way, could it also be the case that this is an opportunity for the Lord's devotees to be glorified by, you know, stepping up and, you know, following the rules and offering this alternative to society, you know, for a chance for that light to shine through?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's what will happen. Srila Prabhupada said now that the brainwash books have entered the bloodstream of society like a poison. He says now there's no turning back. So the more books that go out, the more the foundation is laid for the rest of the plan to take place. The books are like recorded kirtan. They give off a certain vibration, and that will affect the consciousness of people without them even realizing it. Through the process of osmosis, it will just seep in and become absorbed. And the people won't quite know what it is. For ourselves, Prabhupada said the highest principle is to save yourself. So we have to become stable and buoyant in our Krishna consciousness. We have to get onto solid ground. Prabhupada wanted everyone to be second class devotees as soon as possible. Better still to be first class, but at least be Majjhima Adhikari. We were discussing this last night in Srila Bhakti Chintamani. The Majjhima Adhikari is 75% free of anartas. So once you're going through the anarta nivritti, but there's still some anartas, but now you're 75%. So what does it look like? How do you judge? How many percentage do you think you are free from your anartas? And how do you judge that? And could a person have strong faith? And if he's struggling to follow the principles, does that automatically disqualify him from being a nishta? Or is it that if you're 75% free of anartas, it means that for 3/4 of the time you're really solid, and then 25% of the time things go a bit unusual, and then you come back. So out of a 30-day week, 24 of them are good, 6 of them are a struggle. Is that what a 75% of anartas looks like? What did you say, Kandaki?
I never heard that before. That's very interesting. What it could be the 25% of, you say Tamadikari?
The Uttamadikari is 100%, but the
Majjhima
Adhikari, yeah. He's reached Nishta. Yeah. So he's still got some stock left. But most of the time he's okay. Every now and again he'll get a little bit bewildered, a little bit overwhelmed. And then when he breaks through that, then he gets to the point where everything's been removed now.
Like this small book about the life of, what's her name? Disciple of Pinjaima Swami. Forgot her name. And she said, Indra Maharaj asked, do you have any attachment when she was on the
Tomatoes.
about to leave the body? And she said, yes, Guru Maharaj, I still like tomatoes. That was her bigger attachment, that she still liked tomatoes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few devotees that have reached perfection and they've given up everything. And yeah, so for ourselves, there's another book by Shiva Ramaj called Sankalpa Kamudi. And Sankalpa is when you make a determined effort to approach something, a vow to uphold. So the Sankalpa, and so you may feel that there's some anarthas which you need to be freed from if you're going to go forward. And you have to work out, well, what is it? Like another thing that came up last night was that some devotees say that if you just chant and do service, you'll make advancement automatically. And he says you only make advancement automatically if those efforts are educated, if you're making educated efforts. If you're just making efforts ignorantly, then you won't make automatic advancement. So the onus is on everyone to become fully versed in the knowledge, the sambandha, and then abhideya can take place. You can't do abhideya without sambandha, in other words. If you say, well, I haven't got time for sambandha, I'm just going to get on with. Like if you give somebody a model kit of an aeroplane, there's 500 pieces in it, and you say, you probably better check this out first. It shows you where number 475 fits into number 400. No, I haven't got time for the map. Just give me them. I'll stick them together. That looks like the wing. I'll put that there. Then what does he end up with? A helicopter. An alien invader instead of an aeroplane. So sambandha is you get all the pieces, you identify them, and then abhideya you start putting them all together to get the item. Pure devotional service. Then it's automatic. If you've got the plan and you're following it, then the plane will automatically come into being. It will be automatic, only if you're following. Which means you have to be well acquainted with the plan and understanding what parts are missing right now and where they need to go when you find them. If you don't really know, and you've got this plane with one wing, and you think, it'll be okay. You just throw it like that, and it spins around and comes back like a boomerang. It'll be fine. We'll get along with that. It'll only last for a certain period of time. You have to, and for a lot of us, Keshav Maharaj was saying the first thing for a lot of us is we have to learn how much we don't know. That's the first form of unsteady devotional service, utsamai, false confidence. We think, I pay dandavats better than anybody else, my dhoti's neat, he looks like a total space case, look at his dhoti, he was late for Mangalati. I'm like, I'm a self-realized soul. So that's the first stage, is learning how much you don't actually know. And we don't generally like to do that because we think that means we're kind of sabotaging ourselves. But actually, it's because we're insecure that we're not prepared to face where we're lacking, and then having to accept the work, the hard work that's going to have to be engaged in to achieve success. So that can be a little bit daunting in the beginning because like if you jump into a gym and everyone that's been in the gym has been in the gym can you imagine going into a gym, someone's been in the gym for 50 years working out, and you come into the gym and you're like really spindly, there's this massive incredible Hulk guy, so that can be a little bit daunting. But you can also think, well, if I just stick it out in 50 years, I'll be like that, I'll be like a superhero. I'll be powerful. But it'd be really foolish to go into the gym and just assume because you've got your jacket on, and it's one of these padded jackets, that look at him, I'm a lot better than him, But you haven't even took your jacket off yet and started trying to do it. When you take your jacket off and you start doing it, up at four regs, out all day doing service, you start realizing, oh, I'm actually quite spindly. I thought I was a tough guy. And it's interesting that Krishna says that there's 4 types of people that come to Krishna: distressed, inquisitive, looking for opulence, and in search of the absolute truth. And he says, those in search of the absolute truth are the most dear to me. So what he's saying is, for whatever reason you've ended up pursuing Krishna, you've got to shift over to searching for the absolute truth. Because otherwise, if you're just there because you want to be out of distress, then once you're out of distress, there's no reason to be here anymore. Or once you've got some ability to manipulate the material energy, because you're now controlling your senses, and to some degree you're able to exert your influence on the external energy, so you start getting some facility. So you think, okay, that's it, I've got my facility, I'm off. Or you're just curious, and what is it all about? Oh, okay, so that's what it's all about. Okay, and then you go. But if you're in search of the absolute truth, then you'll stay, because you're looking for Krishna now. You came for something else, and then you realize, no, actually it's Krishna. I thought that was Krishna, but it's not. I thought that was Krishna, but it's not. This is actually Krishna, pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. That's Krishna. That's actually, and I'm not that keen on it, but I'm convinced now, at least philosophically, my intelligence is locked in that this is what I should be doing. So I've got some determination now, and now I have to adhere and commit, and that's why there's initiation. You are officially committing. Okay, I'm not going to turn back now. You are exhausting your options. And then there's only one thing left to achieve and only one direction to go in. Jai. ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bo.
Prabhu ki.
All of you ki jai. Vishnu Badai.